Welcome to Conscious Profits Unfiltered. This is your host, Sebastian Nam.
What up, fam? Today, I bring you Rocio Villalobos, a creative strategist who became a quote-unquote accidental entrepreneur after being laid off from her dream job. Since, she has helped launch and lead the Conscious Capitalism movement in Los Angeles and remains an active board member of the LA chapter. Rocio's journey of merging who she is with what she does for a living has been a series of moments of profound awareness, followed by inspired action. And let's be honest, a lot of hard work. Raised in Lima, Peru, Rocio was fortunate to have been raised with both the US and Peruvian cultures. She grew up hyper-aware of the struggles of a third world country, all the while developing deep empathy and determination to be a force for good. Through her creative consultancy, Gracely, Rocio and her team help purpose-driven brands align themselves with conscious capitalism principles, all the while strengthening their brand, growing their business, and truly making the impact they want in our world. Tune in to listen to Rocio's journey into the world of conscious capitalism. Welcome to the show, Rocio.
Hi, thanks, Sebastian.
Thanks for being on. Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. You know, it's pretty wild, actually. When I met you several years ago, it was actually during, I wouldn't even say a month, but during a week where it like kind of hit me that what I'm truly passionate about is conscious business. And wow. I remember, we met that week and I think I mentioned something about it and you told me, you're like, oh, well, I'm on the board of Conscious Capitalism Los Angeles. And I'm like, what is that?
What is that? I remember that.
And then you invited me to an event and I was just so stoked that it even existed. So serendipitous for sure.
I like to start by reaction when I found out about it, actually.
What's that?
I had the same reaction when I found out about it. I was like, wait, this is a thing?
It's a thing, yeah.
So that really cool.
Yeah. We're going to get into that for sure. The first thing I want to ask you is, the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you what your last oh shit moment was.
Geez. I would have to say it was probably not too long ago, in the past couple weeks, where with this whole era of COVID that we're in, where I just really, I forget what it was that prompted it, but where I just realized like, wow, we're in this for a long haul. We're in this for the long haul in terms of, you know, like it may have been where I realized a business that has been around for 30 years, shut its doors. And also just, you know, us getting together in person socially. It's like, wow, like we really have to think about how this is going to be in the long term, in at least the next year. And when this pandemic first started, I was actually cool. It made me realize how much of an introvert I am. How much of a social introvert I am. I was like, I am good. The pressure is off of a lot of things. And I was really taking it as a good opportunity to go inside and to just, you know, have things slow down a bit. I was really welcoming it. Yeah. And now I think we're in that period where even people like me just getting a little bit antsier and really, you know, just really recognizing the magnitude of it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. It took me a while too. Like it's not that it took me a while, like to see the to see the seriousness of it. I saw it early on, but the magnitude of the length, like you said, that hit me pretty late too. And I was like, man, I feel you on that. What about your last?
How it changes everything. It's a domino effect.
Absolutely. What about your last hell yeah moment?
Yeah. My boyfriend and I had booked a retreat out in Running Springs with this company called Getaway House. And it's basically, you have this awesome little modular cabin and they have a series of them. It's really well organized, but basically you go and it's just like to connect in nature and like disconnect from everything else. And everything is quiet there. And you have this huge, amazing window next to your bed that looks out into nature. And I was just like, yes, this is great.
Man, I want to go really bad right now.
No, it's amazing. Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I love it. So, Rocio, you were born and raised in Lima, Peru. Yeah. You were exposed to a lot of like serious poverty there on a different level. And how did, growing up in Peru shape a little bit of the person that you are today?
Yeah, definitely. In so many ways. But I would say, as you mentioned, the actual experiencing and seeing poverty from the time you're a little kid was definitely one of them that really had a deep impact on me from the time I was a little kid. But I think it was also the combination of the awareness of the American side of things, to American culture. My mom is actually from the US. My dad was from Peru. He passed when I was young. But so we really, and my mom was always very active in the American society in Lima. So we had a big awareness of both cultures. And so for me, it was always really the awareness of seeing like the extent of poverty that you see in the day-to-day life in Lima, with also the extent of opportunities and extent of wealth that there is in the US. So one of the stories I always mention is, I remember when I was I don't even know how young, I may have been like 6 or 7, I guess probably, 7 or so. And in Peru and in Lima, when you're in traffic going somewhere, there's always vendors on the street, right? So they're selling chicle, they're selling gum, they're selling whatever, they're selling flowers. And I just remember this, like literally this kid, it was my same age or younger, like staring across the other side of the window from me selling gum or something. And then me just like realizing, oh, wow, like that could have been me. Like, why was I born into this family and having this life, and that kid is born into that family, and his mom is behind him with like, her baby on her back, and they're selling gum. And it's just like those moments that just really struck a chord and made me really realize like the bigger picture.
That's super powerful when we have that realization at some point. Hopefully most people have that realization at some point, but it was at a young age for me as well. Just being like, I could have been born somewhere else, and that really would have changed, I definitely have a belief that's maybe of a belief that anybody could become anything essentially, but in reality, it's really, really difficult, and it really does affect where you're born and the situation that you're in,
And it really, it just comes down to also what thoughts are going through your head and what you listen to and what you don't listen to.
Sure. And when you're born in a different situation, you're going to hear a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, it's like, what's your echo chamber?
Yeah. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. We're going to jump around. You had a dream job. You worked at Paramount Pictures. Tell us a little bit about that job.
Yeah, so this was early in my career, when I graduated from college, I had a friend who was working at Paramount Digital Design, which was a graphics, a broadcast design studio within the Paramount lot. And they did all the special effects and graphics for different shows and movie titles and things like that. And so I ended up getting a job there. And I hadn't studied broadcast design, but I actually was learning it on the job, and it was, it was exciting. And it was just, I felt like, okay, this is, an amazing place to be, and everybody was awesome. And I was, again, early in my career, learning, doing different things. And then suddenly, like, there was this rumor that there was some like backlot embezzlement happening, some sort of scandal. And the next thing you know, I had been there, I guess, about 1.5 years. Everybody's getting pulled into the boss's office, and it was like everybody's getting let go. So soon enough, I got let go as well. And it was one of those things where I just felt so lost, and like, the rug was pulled out from under me. And I didn't quite have enough experience in broadcast yet to just be able to easily go and get another job. It's, super competitive industry here in LA, especially at the time. And it was one of those things where I just realized something in me just told me, this is the perfect opportunity for a change, to go do something. And I was at the age where I knew I was thinking about moving. And actually, this whole idea came because we have one of my sisters, so she's not blood related, but she grew up in my family in Peru, but she's half Spanish. she had moved to Spain a few years before, and I had done a study abroad in Spain and gone to visit her and just really fell in love with the culture and everything. And I always had an idea that I was going to come back. So when this whole thing happened, I was like, I grew up in Peru until I was 13. And then I've been in the US, and this was like during like the Bush years. Everything was really contentious, and I was a little bit like I wanted to get out of the US and experience living as an adult outside of the country, and have a different perspective, from the society here. And like with appreciation of the US, but also a little bit of like, knowing that there was more that I needed to see.
Sure.
And so when this whole thing happened, I spoke to my friend, and she's like, hey, well, you can stay with us. We have like 3 extra bedrooms, and they live like right in the middle of Madrid. So I just figured it out, and I decided, if I stay with broadcast design, it's going to be more limiting. This whole web thing was happening at the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pull the plug and do this. So I ended up moving home for a few months, took web classes at the community college, a few months, saved up, had started to get some freelance clients at the time. And then that's when I started my first company, put my mom on my business account. My freelance clients would send money to San Diego, and then I was just going to use my card, when I was in Madrid. So that was my launch into getting into web design, and also moving to Europe and having that whole other experience where
you were in Europe when 9/11 happened, right? When 9/11 happened. And so what was that like? What was that whole outside perspective into the US? Most of us were here, had a certain experience looking into that. What was that like for you over there?
Hey guys, I just want to remind you, if you want to find more content like this, you can visit sebastiannaum.com. That's Sebastian, Naum.com. You can also get a ton of other marketing resources from myself and my agencies, ranging from SEO to social media, influencer marketing, branding, web development, and more. Again, that's sebastiannaum.com. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, I felt like I was in a movie. There was definitely a lot of solidarity when it first happened, and everybody's really empathetic. And for me, it was a shock to think like right when it happened that I couldn't come home even if I wanted to. All the airports were shut down and everything. And it was also a priority shift that I wanted to just be home and be near my family and everything. If the world was blowing up, I wanted to blow up where my family was.
Yeah.
But from a cultural perspective, yeah, everybody was very supportive. And, it made me realize how everybody kind of banded together. But it also made me realize how unpredictable and unstable, life was. Yeah. And yeah, it just changed my perspective on wanting to come back.
Sure. And when you came back, you essentially, you continued to work on your agency. It was growing, but what about it wasn't really fulfilling you that had you shift?
Yeah. So I came back and I went from freelancing to then hiring designers and developers who were better than me to help me, as we were getting bigger clients and everything.
Way to do it.
And it wasn't really until a few years later that I shifted. And one of it was I was just going through one of those periods where I'd gone through a breakup, and I was, I was working back at home at the time, and I was just going through like a little bit of a depression, I think, to be honest. And I had clients and they were great, but I was just like, felt like I was in this cave and I was like stuck. And I just wasn't happy. So I ended up joining a Toastmasters club. And because I realized, I just need to get out of my house. I need to be around other people who are going to be inspiring. And I need to at least learn a skill. If I hate the people, at least I'll have a skill that will be beneficial to me. So I've always been a little bit of a geek. Like I love learning stuff. So I just wanted to really get out of my own way, get out of my house. And through there, I met a coach, my friend Gene Sullivan, and he's an executive coach. And we ended up doing a trade. And I helped him with some marketing stuff. He helped me with coaching. And I was actually looking to get a full-time job. So I was like, Gene, help me figure out where I should go, because I don't want to just go somewhere and hate it. Like, so he did an assessment, and through that, he taught me about conscious capitalism. And when he taught me, and he was doing some coaching that was in alignment with conscious capitalism. So when we were talking about it, it really made me realize, like, wow, like I can actually bring together who I am with what I do, you know? So, and for those who don't know what conscious capitalism is, it's well, they probably do if they want.
Well, I was actually going to interrupt you and say that, because what you said is so powerful. Like, I can actually bring together who I am and what I do, you know? And I think that it's obviously a difficult thing for a lot of people, and a lot of people don't achieve it ever in life. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that to have a fulfilled life, you have to be doing exactly what you're super passionate about, and that's what makes you money. I mean, that's an ideal situation, but for you, you realize that this is possible, like who I am and what I do. And what do you mean by that? Like, what is this? Who were you? That you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, so I'm a very passionate, empathetic person when it comes to, I think you can think of it like the collective, you know. I've always been like the hippie of my family. I always say I'm like I'm a hippie on the inside. Got it. And I just always really care about different things, you know. I really care about our environment. I really care about other people. I really care about, you know, systemic, you know, things that are wrong with our country, and with just all these things that I'm really passionate about. And also even just like the heart-driven things, you know, the spiritual side of things that can really make somebody, you know, be happy in their life, or a lot of things that cause people a lot of pain, but they don't realize all this stuff. I've just always been really interested in all that. So with conscious capitalism and with this movement of conscious business, it's really, I don't have to hide that anymore, I guess. Whereas before it was always compartmentalized, especially as a woman in business. You know, like, okay, I've got to be more male, and I've got to try to, you know, like downplay my feminine assets and values. And where this was like, oh, I could actually seek out clients and brands and companies that believe and that really care about all these things just as much as they care about being profitable. But at the end of the day, you have to be profitable so that you can do more amazing things, you know?
Absolutely. So how did you get your feet wet into this? How did you dive into this whole, like, how did that actually come to realization? Like, hey, I can actually do something that I don't have to compartmentalize. Oh, that's a rough word for me. So how can I keep that, put it all together and really be me? Well, what did you do first?
Well, I think the first thing that I did was actually get excited about it. And I'm not saying that lightly, because from the time that Gene and I spoke about it, and it was like that aha moment, like, wow, I can bring these two worlds together instead of keeping them separately. I just geeked out, and I started researching, and I read the book Conscious Capitalism, and I was like, look, this is amazing. Like, it was like this whole other world opened up. So I got super excited about it and continued to work with Gene. And then through hard work, but also through being aware and seeing opportunities, things started happening, you know? So like a year after him and I spoke, I was helping co-produce a women's conference called Together. And it was a conference, how to build the conscious business. So I had seen an opportunity through an event of this same group that they produced, and I became friends with them. I attended their meetups. And then, you know, my friend Tatiana Luti, she was talking about the next conference, and that was the actual focus, how to build a conscious business. So I'm like, sign me up. How do I help you? What can I do? I've got all these skills. My team can help. Like, and so spent a whole summer in launching that. And that was amazing, really successful. I met a lot of friends in the space, in the conscious business space, who I now am good friends with, and have engaged in other things from that initial conference. And then 6 months later, the LA chapter of Conscious Capitalism launched. And
what exactly is that? What is Conscious Capitalism Los Angeles?
Yeah. So conscious capitalism, the movement is a global movement and nonprofit, and there's different chapters in all the cities. And it's all about bringing professionals together on how to build better businesses. There's some people think it's an oxymoron, conscious capitalism, and I totally get that. But if you really look at it from a perspective of, capitalism isn't going away anytime soon, and there's a lot of bad things about capitalism.
Yeah, so let me stop you right there. You said some people want it's an oxymoron. It's almost like there's this weird negative reaction. I've had it too as well. Yeah, so I've said it to somebody, conscious capitalism, and they actually didn't even put those two words together. They didn't actually grasp the concept, and they just thought, no. Why do you want to talk about it? Capitalism has this and that, this stigma and whatever. And I'm like, no, conscious capitalism. And I had to explain, and they're like, oh, I didn't even go there in my head.
It's like they don't even hear the word conscious.
No. Yeah. And what does that even mean when I hear conscious? Because conscious just means conscious of something. I mean, essentially, it's more like conscientious if you think about it. But in a way, conscious capitalism, what we refer to and we talk about, gets a lot of negative reactions. So what do you say about that?
And rightfully so, rightfully so. If you don't take the time to really understand what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I think like a better way to explain it is just better capitalism, right? Like better for the planet, better for people, better for breaking down, systemic issues that we have, better for vendors that engage with the company. It's really like, how do we take a structure that's existing, that's not going to go away anytime soon, and make it better? Like what was put in place 100 years ago just doesn't apply.
Correct. Yeah, and Rocio, you have an agency, Gracely, that you then started, which is actually it's a marketing agency for purpose-driven brands. Exactly. It's based on conscious capitalism. Yeah. So, what kind of clients do you guys have? What do you do with your clients? Do you help them implement these, conscious access, these purposes? Do you help them market it, or do you actually suggest them? How does that work?
All of the above. No, all of the above. Nice. We really focus on the creative strategy aspect of it, and creative strategy meaning, getting into the strategic side of the marketing, right? So before anything is done, or if something's already done, or you're wanting to shift it, or you're wanting to get more specific, it's really just tapping into, with my background from broadcast design, from video to branding to design to digital, there's so many aspects of a brand now that it's, as we all know, very overwhelming, and trying to keep it, keep it really purpose-driven, but also authentic, and, bring in sales. So it's really helping brands get clarity on how to bring the three things together, which is the brand itself, like defining the brand in this purpose-driven space, the users, right? Who are we actually speaking to? Who do we want to speak to that we're not reaching yet? So that's user experience design. And then the business goals, right? Like if we don't really understand your business, and we don't understand your short-term or long-term goals, then what are we doing? How are we marketing? And I like to say it's also in a sense, like in a concierge service sort of way, within the network that we've built up over all these years working in LA and within the conscious community. Hey, so what are the holes that need to be filled, and who do we bring in, right? Whether it's our team or whether it's your team, like we love to bring in other teams that are actually also on the same wavelength.
And, consumers are just so much more conscious nowadays than they were before. They really are deciding on, they are voting with their dollars more and more, right? Yeah. So as people vote with their dollars, a lot of people will say, well, whether it's, let's say, a CPG brand or like with food, it happens a lot where they say, well, if I want to eat consciously and I want to eat well and I want to buy a product, maybe it's a certified B corporation, whatever that may be, I have to pay top dollar. Anything that I do for conscious, if I want to support any sort of conscious business or purpose-driven brand, I'm going to have to pay more. So how does that play into everything in terms of looking at it from a short play or long-term standpoint? And how does that work with brands?
Yeah, well, there's one thing that's a little bit that I think people also give, flack about, or, are wary about, is like, oh yeah, all these like conscious brands, like you have to pay so much more, like nobody in middle America is going to be able to, or want to, or just be able to, afford these things. And I think what people don't realize is that it's all about looking at how do we make the most impact, right? So if a brand wants to create an impact, guess what? They'll probably most likely be working with a nonprofit who's already been doing that for years and just needs more support. There's so many nonprofits that are doing amazing work, and that they just need more either eyeballs or money or both. And that's a way where these purpose-driven brands can actually help expand that and have a larger impact. So I think, we're kind of at, I would say in the past 10 years, this movement where you're seeing more. In the past 5 years, it's kind of like really exploded.
Yeah.
So many
Absolutely.
one-for-one model. There's all these different models of impact. But I think we just always have to look at the long-term plan. And it frustrates me when people take a company that's trying to do something good and then they just focus on like the bad things that are happening in that company, or the things that the company isn't doing. And it's like, okay, I get it. It's always good to have critics. Always. I'm not saying you shouldn't have critics, but at the same time, it's like looking at the bigger picture, like what are the companies who are actually trying to do something? They're not going to get it right the first time, or there's always going to be issues. But really, what are we looking at? What are they doing better? Do we want to support the companies that are doing better? And guess what? Those that are actually being those that are actually at the forefront of the movement, or the forefront of trying to change specific things about the industry, they're always going to trip and fall. Like that's.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I had the CEO of a company called Sun and Swell Foods, Kate Flynn, and they're a snack company, and they have compostable packaging. They're a certified B Corporation. She was actually talking about just that, about this idea of progress, not perfection, because when you're a purpose-driven brand, you want to do everything perfect. And then she was talking about how you realize at one point you can't do everything, perfect, right? So if you try to really take those steps to do a lot of those processes better, to be helping the environment, to be helping out all the stakeholders, right? To be helping out, and not just the consumers, also your employees, right? And your teams. But so when you can take a lot of those steps, you're really making that progress into a conscious business. And it doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect, as long as you kind of continue to improve. So I think there's businesses out there today that are maybe thinking about this, and they're thinking, we really should implement more purpose into our mission. We should, be more of a conscious business, but they don't know where to start because they think, oh my gosh, it's a huge mountain to climb to get it all right.
And I mean, I would say, the place to start is to expand your network, right? To expand your network of other business people, business associates, friends who also are passionate and believe in this. Because what's going to happen is you're going to learn through those, social connections, business connections. You'll be able to have a bigger pool to choose from that you want to collaborate with.
And I can tell that lights you up. I see it in your face. I know it lights you up when you connect with other entrepreneurs that are into that,
Absolutely. Because, the main thing is it's easy to get overwhelmed. But you don't have to get overwhelmed if you start thinking about you don't have to do it alone, So
that's right.
I know that I can call you up, and if we have a big pitch for a complete creative strategy that's going to include digital marketing components and all these things, and it's a purpose-driven brand, it's like, I know that you're on it, you're already on the same page, you've got the skills, it's like we're halfway there already.
I love it. Yeah. So not being overwhelmed and really reaching out to other entrepreneurs that are like-minded, which is what is so great about CCLA, about Conscious Capitalism LA. You are on the board of CCLA. So people out there can actually get involved. They can go to the website, they can sign up, and they can attend events. Now they're all digital, right? So what is happening with Conscious Capitalism Los Angeles right now? Where is it going? Because, I personally went to some of these events that you invited me to, and I loved that human connection. So how has that shifted? Has it actually hurt? Has it helped? What is the digital aspect now?
It's interesting. Obviously, everything is still in flux, but it's really it's shifted for the better. We don't know what's going to happen,
Really?
in the long term. I mean, obviously everybody wishes they can get together, but the really interesting thing that's happened is as we've had these these virtual events, like we have a couple more produced ones coming up, but we've had a couple just like what we call our community nights where we just gather and it's not really, produced. It's just to get together and see each other. And this one, what's really cool about Zoom is that, we all get together, we talk about some things as a group, and then we have a topic, and then we've broken out into like the breakout rooms. So there's, you're in there with like 4 or 5 other people tops. And
That's
then
cool.
you continue the dialogue on that topic, and then we all join back into the main room. And what's really awesome about that is that it's it's so much more intimate. You're seeing the person's names. You're not like, I'm always like in the back of my head, oh shoot, what was that lady's name? I totally, like classic. So I'm like thinking of that instead of paying attention, so like all these things that's really more intimate. And you actually really get to know each other better. And I've already made, have made a couple friends from just the past couple events, and we're in dialogue about certain things. Whereas when you're in a regular event, I know so many people in the community. So it's like, I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, oh, somebody comes in, I haven't seen, it's like you get a lot more distractions, which, you can work around. But we just realize as we move forward and as the in-person event starts coming up, this will definitely still be part of our, our events, like doing these digital ones. Well, doing actual online ones.
Once we go back
to, it'll be both. And now
I was thinking about the in-person ones, and then during those events, having like forced breakouts of like people like
I like that idea. How you think?
You're right. You go in there, you're new, you kind of feel a little bit out of place. You meet a few people. If you've been going for a long time, you're connecting with everybody you already know. So I love that you're saying that you guys have found a way to make it personal on those digital events. So anybody that's out there listening, considering this and thinks that they're interested in conscious capitalism, conscious business, this is a great way to get started. Really awesome.
And the other thing that we're doing is we're just, really focusing more on what's valuable to our members now as we're going through all this. So we're starting a member-only LinkedIn group, and you'll be launching our site here and our new site here every day. So we're really finding out what are things that are important to us that we are pivoting into and that we need to be better at ourselves.
I love it.
We're a young chapter, if you would, all 100% volunteer based. So it's always an evolution.
I love it. So, Rocio, what are 2 traits that you think are most important in a conscious leader today?
Definitely personal growth, commitment to personal growth. And well, I was going to say empathy. I think that's tied into personal growth. So I think knowing business, right? Just always continue to learn about the business and the profit side.
That's really important.
As a leader in a for-profit.
Sure.
It's like, and that's
commitment to growth.
Yeah.
And then also, remaining true to the growth mindset for the business itself. So it's personal growth and business growth in a way.
Yeah, I think it does come down to.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. So, Rocio, how do we get in touch with Gracely and Conscious Capitalism LA?
Sure. So Gracely, we're on all our socials we are Gracely, and our website is grace.ly. And Conscious Capitalism, it's ccla.la. And our socials are some variation of that. Our Conscious Capitalism LA, I think, is our Instagram.
And all the links will be included too. So anybody can get to them as well.
Yeah. Definitely.
Great. So definitely connect. I think it's a great opportunity for people to
audience.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for people to really get started. Like you said, when you learned about this, when I learned about this, like, whoa, this exists. So I'm sure there's somebody out there listening to this and just hearing about it for the first time. So I'm excited for people to connect with you.
And I think energetically, it's really, you really focus on what is actually exciting you, what's turning you on. And then geek out on that a little bit and things start happening. But, a lot of hard work in between there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being with me today, Rocio. We really enjoyed it. And keep being Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. You know, it takes a lot to put these things together, but I truly love doing it. If you enjoyed this episode or the show in general, and you listen to it on audio podcast, please take some time to give it a review. It would really mean a lot to me. And if you watch the video, please go ahead and just click subscribe and share it with somebody that you think would like it. It would really mean the world to me, and it helps keep the show alive. Visit sebastiannaum.com for more content and follow me on Instagram at sebnaum. That's SEBNAUM. Thanks again for spending your time with me. I know it is valuable. I hope you have a great rest of the day and week. Till next time.